What's up, y'all? Welcome to the TEEJCAST. We're here with another episode, and we'll be featuring my dude, John Tornas.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. John is another dope multi-instrumentalist, producer, composer. Anything else you do that I left off the list?
I make quilts.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good in the kitchen too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so quilt making, dude. So we're gonna talk about one of your songs on this new project. It's called Quilt.
Yeah.
And what got you into doing that, and how it inspired the art?
Good question. It was kind of the music came before the quilt concept for sure. But during the pandemic, I went to a museum exhibit with a bunch of friends about American quilt making, and I hadn't really thought about quilts before in like as a way of making art or self-expression. But it was an amazing kind of eye-opening experience, and it made me want to make one. And so as a pandemic hobby, I made a quilt, and I was like, I could do that again.
Nice.
And I just started seeing a lot of similarities between the process of making a quilt and the process of making music. And so like when it came time to like give the project a identity, it felt right because I had just made this big quilt out of like my clothing and clothing from my grandfather and like thrifted stuff like that. So and the music was very kind of personal about my childhood and memories from my childhood. So it just kind of made sense that it came together like that.
Nice. I guess for anyone who doesn't know, like, what would the difference be between a quilt and a blanket or a sheet or a tarp?
Generally, a quilt is something where you take multiple pieces of fabric and you stitch them together in kind of patchwork. So it might be like a checkered patchwork or just like different kinds of material thrown together, stitched together. And quilts are like multi-layer. So you have the top layer, which has all the patchwork, and then you have a middle layer that's like the thing that keeps you warm. And then you have like a backing layer, which is like usually just like a sheet or something simple because that's what's against your skin while you're sleeping. Okay. So yeah, it's like a blanket, but it's something that also is usually made out of like secondhand or leftover items that you bring together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It sounds like it has this like collage-y aspect to it.
Exactly. You can see where I'm going with the music aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So how did that relate to your process of making the music on this? Like, did it feel like you're making like an audio quilt?
Yeah, I think that like, my process has always been very collage sample based, and trying one thing, putting things together that weren't supposed to go together. Yeah, I think like when I was first creating the music, I kind of did, like maybe 15, 20 sketches that ended up being on my computer. And I like took some time with them, sifted through them, decided which ones I liked the most, then started refining those. And similarly, when you're making a quilt, you like have all these different pieces of fabric. And the first step is to decide what colors you want. And so that same thing with the music is like, I was kind of figuring out in the beginning, what colors do I want? What do I want this to feel like? Before any of the stuff like attaching it to childhood memories and stuff came in, it was just like a basic, how am I feeling at the moment? And like, what is my ear telling me kind of thing. So it's similar in that way that you're starting with colors and then you start to refine and make it into something that has an arc and a story and stuff.
Would the colors have been like the instruments you have in this album? Because there's a lot. There's saxophones, there's different horns, woodwinds. For
sure. Exactly. I knew, so I've been getting more into film scoring in the past couple of years. And so I had these like string orchestra libraries that I knew I wanted to use, and I wanted to create a kind of a grand sound with, and I play sax and clarinet, so I wanted to incorporate those as well. And then I'm a big lover of just synth sounds in general. So at that moment, I knew that I wanted to kind of have that synthiness, that like earthy woodwind feeling, and then like the strings. So yeah, those were the colors that I started off with. Yeah.
Nice. I feel like earthy is a good way to describe a lot of this project too.
Yeah.
You have the Two Little Birds song and the biking, which just has a very outdoor feel.
Yeah.
But is there anything else? Like, how did you make like the drums? I mean, some have drums, some don't.
Yeah, the drums, I feel like because I started my production journey with like making beats, sampling and stuff like that, the drums were just felt natural in some places, and in some places it felt very new for me to not have drums. So for example, like Tadpoles is very simple, mostly just piano and synth. And that was, I guess the drums came in just because like, I feel like sometimes you need rhythm to tie things together in a way. It's rhythm is the glue. And so it just made sense for me to put rhythm in certain places, especially for like the track like Biking, which I wanted to feel like it was a sense of movement, and rhythm moves you. So yeah, I guess maybe for like the more far off into my memory tracks, like from when I was little, I'm noticing now that there's less drums in those ones, and then the closer to where I'm at now is there ended up being more drums.
Nice.
Yeah.
to school for composition.
No, I went to school. I studied social anthropology.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my education with music has been patchwork. I was in the jazz band in high school, but then after that, I never really had a consistent music teacher, or I've taken classes here and there. So I took a class on orchestration, online Berklee class. Like at Harvard, I took a like jazz improv class but I haven't really studied it in an institutional setting, I'd say.
wow.
I've been kind of studying it since I started making beats since the beginning of college, but not really in school.
That's awesome. Wow,
Yeah.
you're more self-taught than I thought.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. And, it's funny to think someone I thought, because I knew you went to college. And
Yeah.
you went to what college again?
Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know. I assume people who go to Harvard study all the things that they do.
But
But
they know exactly what they're doing. When they
yeah,
get there.
right? On every But no, that's cool. You also, you and Y, who we had on this podcast too, are both self-taught more,
Yeah.
That's cool, man. And how do you feel like being self-taught has influenced you playing? Like, do you notice you play with other people who are mostly self-taught or people who went to school? What's the
Yeah.
difference between doing that?
Well, it's cool because where I got my foundation was pretty traditional in that, like, I got a saxophone in 6th grade. I learned Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then in high school, my band teacher asked me to join the jazz band. So I learned kind of my building blocks in that very, I guess, traditional way that a lot of instrumentalists do, and kind of maybe in high school or through teachers. So I think that having that foundation made me comfortable with, after high school, being like doing what I just felt like. I also had an interesting situation where when I first was a freshman, I auditioned for the jazz band and my reading wasn't quite up to snuff. I think there was like a sight reading audition. I didn't get in, and I was like, oh man, what does this mean for me? I thought I was going to be in the jazz band. I was a jazz guy. But then a friend of mine was starting like a soul band. So I was like, all right, I'm going to learn Barry. And so I played Barry for 4 years, kind of as a rhythm, a horn section player. And like from there I was like, oh wow, like actually like playing at a party and having people dance, like, I'm so glad I didn't get into the jazz band. And I think that kind of, that like, I followed that since then. Like, there's a lot that the world has to offer that you might not know. So I just kind of been going with the flow since that moment. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see you as someone who just like playing with people.
Yes.
And enjoys that real social element of music more than like the study of it and the theoretical things. Like, would you agree with that? Like, music is more a tactile thing you like to experience?
Yes, it's very experiential, and I find that, to also bring in your earlier question, which I forgot to answer, about like, do I find myself playing with more traditionally trained musicians or self-taught people? I found that like, whether you're traditionally trained or self-taught, oftentimes it doesn't necessarily always correlate with like how present you are or how you're using your ears. And so I feel like I enjoy most playing with people who are like super present, and like, even if they're not as technically strong, if they can like respond to what I'm doing in some way, I much prefer to play with those people rather than someone who is super nice with it, but maybe is playing their own changes instead of the ones we're playing,
Yeah, for sure. Being present is like the
Yeah.
main thing I feel like I've gotten out of being a musician.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can tell, it's not even the sound sometimes, but just the feel of it.
Of course, yeah.
What channels through the music, if someone's like fully there and present and putting their all into it, or if their head is traveling in different places. I mean, sometimes I felt that when my head isn't really in it, but I'm just playing on autopilot and playing what I think sounds right or good. But yeah, that difference is, and that's just transfers into normal life too. Just when you're being social with people and being present, fully there, and listening to what they're saying and all that is with the music too.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a dope video.
Thank you.
How much of the shooting were you like there for in it?
I was there the whole time
Yeah.
in the car. I was driving the car.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a great like kind of an indie effort. You know, we had the car. My friend Daniel, who was the videographer, editor, everything, aka Bridge Vision. He was just in the trunk. We like popped the trunk and we like shot it from like 11 p.m. to like 4 a.m. So there was like very little traffic. It's kind of like a misty night in August, and so then I was driving. My friend Grace was like helping out with some of the driving duties and just like hanging out, and then my three friends, Sean and Aiden and Arlene, were the bikers. And so earlier in the day, Daniel and I did the entire bike route that they did.
Yeah.
So when it came time to do the video, I was like super glad I didn't have to bike it again.
Oh,
Because
yeah?
it was like 3 or 4 hours of biking that you
Wow.
were tired by the end. But yeah, it was really fun. Like kind of just like evening shoot. We just shot it all in one night kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like first view, I was like kind of surprised you weren't in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, but then I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, I'm almost looking to see you in it, but then I'm just like, no, that's the trip.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're biking with your friends. It's almost like your perspective, or,
Exactly.
you know, like we're part of it with them.
It's very much a like, when I was deciding on whether to be in the video or not, I felt like, I don't know exactly why I made the decision. I think that it's like what you said. It's like when is your memory right? Like you're seeing it through your eyes. And so like, it almost would have felt weird to me to like see myself in the memory, because it's when I was there, like I was like POV, like I was on the bike, but I couldn't necessarily see my face. So it made sense to me to not be in the video. Also, I feel like oftentimes like producers or instrumentalists or like instrumental music in general, it's like a little bit more accepted for like the artist not to be like front and center all the time. And so it felt like a good decision.
Yeah, I felt like your presence is just the music.
Yeah,
like not
exactly.
visually represented, you know, but
Yeah.
you are accompanying
Exactly.
the visuals that are in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you do much biking in Cambridge?
Yeah, the memory is like pretty much, you know, I biked to school every day of high school. Like my friends and I, it's kind of like the main mode of transportation, I think, because it's like pretty common to have like a driver's license in high school, but like when you're out doing activities with your friends, getting up to no good and all that, you're not necessarily having a car. So like most of like the things that I did in Cambridge with my friends was like biking to and from. And oftentimes, you know, like you go out to a party, or you're like chilling on the river or doing something until late at night, and then that like bike ride home is kind of like where a lot of memories happen, where you like grab a slice, or like you just like talk, or you're like riding on the road and there's no cars, you can kind of take up the whole road.
Yeah.
And that's very much like a kid who grew up in any kind of city memory that is like very I know, it's like precious memory. It's important, yeah.
I feel like that's a very like Boston kind of vibe too.
Yeah.
Like all the roads are like dope for biking and skating and stuff.
Exactly. And lots of windy roads and
exactly.
back roads and like places to stop, and yeah, totally.
That's cool. I really feel like New York is getting better and better for biking, like by the day, man.
Truly.
Did you hear about the new thing they're gonna have? Like it's a new tax for cars that are in Manhattan. Did you hear about that?
Oh, it's strictly Manhattan. Is it like a toll, or it's
like a toll? It's like, I think it's like a day toll or something, where it might be like $12 to $15.
Oh
just
my gosh.
if you go in Manhattan, or it might be zones or something. But the same way they scan your license plate, it's gonna be like that.
$10 to get into Manhattan.
I think it was at least. It might have been like
a lot.
12 to 15.
Wow.
Right, but the bike lanes are gonna be popping now.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah. It makes sense. Just like, I think, you know, I feel for the drivers who like traffic is getting a lot worse because, you know, in part because of bike lanes, in part because there's a lot more people in New York, and for a lot of reasons. But a lot of people bike too, and it's nice that it's like starting to accommodate for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, because the roads in Midtown be crazy. But I love biking on 2nd Avenue because it's right when you get off of Queensbridge.
Yeah, right there.
And then you can take 2nd Avenue all the way to Chinatown.
All the way across, or all the way down.
All the way to Brooklyn if you wanted to, right over the bridge. But the Cars Street is so hectic, you know, but the bike lane is just like maybe a couple people every block.
Yeah.
You know, some blocks you go down, there's nobody.
Exactly.
You know, you got to make sure you don't hit someone that's like the restaurants still have like their outdoor seating.
Yeah, right.
Just got to make sure you don't run into someone. But other than that, it's like, I feel like it's a new era for that. So this is a biking song is you know,
it's era.
Yeah.
I recently biked, like I biked across Queensboro and then all the way like across Manhattan to the west side. And then there's pretty much like a bike path all the way. I mean, it's like Riverside Park and then all the way down.
Oh, yeah.
It pretty much continues to the tip of Manhattan, and then you can kind of take it right across the bridge into Brooklyn and Brooklyn Heights and all that. So that was I was like, oh man, this is so nice. Like I'm like miles and miles. I'm not like waiting for a car. So
that's a beautiful path because you could see the World Trade Center like from all the way at the top.
Yeah, totally.
I think the farthest I biked on that one was like 150 something, all the way down to like the Village area.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful bike, right?
Yeah, it's a nice trip in the summer.
And the Riverside Park is really beautiful. Like the further up you go, it's like even like more. It's like there's a highway because there starts to be that highway in between the park and the rest of the city, and so like it's kind of starts to be removed and like country.
That's a beautiful park. Yeah, we went to high school like right around there.
Yeah. Nice.
So we would always go to Riverside Park, you know.
Beautiful.
Right. Yeah. What's up, y'all? This has been the TEEJCAST. We're here with John Tornas, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoyed the music. You could check out his project Quilt on all platforms, but I heard it on Bandcamp. You could, also donate and support him there. Thank you, guys. Peace out. Have a good one.